Hi, this is Luke May. I'm going to present a lecture on HTML, Introduction to the Language of HTML. What is HTML? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So we can do a quick Google search of HTML, and we see w3schools.com comes up first. This is a very good website to look up HTML and some basic tutorials. HTML is a language of the web. It allows you to put up web pages and navigate the web. It is the core of the internet as we know it. There is an organization that is in charge of the standardization of the language. It's called the W3C. That's World Wide Web Consortium. W3C. So you can read up about the organization that writes the standards that all the different web browsers have to comply to. But W3 Schools is going to be a good place, a good reference for you to look up how to write HTML code. So basically HTML is a language. It allows you to make web pages. So we're going to start with that. Before we get into the language itself, let's connect to our ISU server. So we'll go sshcs.indstate.edu. I need to log in as my username, cs15100. Okay. So previously we learned about the Linux command ls lists the contents of your directory. So this Linux system is set up with a web server built in, and the way this particular web service is configured, if you create a directory with the mkdir command, mkdir, the directory has to be named public HTML. If you create this directory, anything in this directory will be served via the web server. Okay, so we need to make sure it has permissions to access this folder and the contents of it. So we have to make sure that our directories are open to others. So if I go ls ls-l, we see the permissions over here on the left of all the student directories. So right now, these first three, those are my permissions. I have read, write, and execute permissions on this directory. My group has read and execute permissions. That means they can't write, they can't modify files or delete. And then everyone else has read and execute permissions. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is make sure all of your directories are set up like this, each of your class directories. But that's going to allow everyone to read access everything in your directory. So you need to lock down your homework folders and your lab folders or anything like that. Anything you don't want other students to see, which is important because there is no cheating in this class, and even if someone cheated off you, that's still a punishable offense, so you have to be careful to lock down your information. Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to lock down the folders in your directory that you don't want others to access. So right now I'm in my home directory, and I want to lock down my homework. Let's say I have a homework folder. Let's see, mkdir homework. Okay, so this is accessible to everyone. Right now I want to lock that down, so I'm going to change the mode, the access mode, and I'm going to change that 700. 7 means I have full access and my group has no access, and and everyone else has no access. So I'm going to chmod 700 the homework directory. Okay, if we type ls and get a list view with that -L option. We see my homework directory. No one has access to it now except me. Okay, so you're going to need to do that for your homework directories and any assignments that you do. You want to make sure you normally just have to do the directory, and then any assignments you do won't be accessible by other people. Okay, but we're going to have to open access to your class directory in order to enable the public HTML directory where you can serve internet content, HTML files from the web server. So we're going to have to, since you've locked down all of your folders now, I'm going to remove that homework directory because I don't need it. Remove RM command removes files and folders. The -R option recursively removes everything inside it. So if you have any other folders and any files inside of those folders, it just removes everything. And the F option is force. It makes it so it doesn't ask you about every single item in there. You have to be very, very careful with the remove command. You can wipe out everything. So normally I wouldn't recommend using the F, but I use Linux a lot, and hopefully I know what I'm doing. So remove that homework folder, ls. We see that it's gone, and we have a public HTML file that is publicly accessible. That's what we want. And we also need our account, our home folder, to be publicly accessible. So here we do we do a chmod 755. This is going to be, you go up one level, and this is going to be, or I guess we could just probably do this. Let me try a chmod 700 first. So I can do ls-l, go to the parent, you see, yeah, so that lockdown, chmod 700 / means this directory, so it locked down that directory. It's my CS151.0.0, it's my home directory. So if I want to open it up, I have to do 755, and that's this directory. So now if I type ls and look in the parent folder, oops, ls-l, now we see the 755. The 7 means read, write, and execute. The 5 means read and execute. So the first number is your permissions, that's a 7. The second number is the group permissions, that's a 5, which is read and execute. And the third number is a 5, and that's for everybody else, and that's read and execute. Okay, I'll go into Y, that's 755, later when we get into binary numbers and more of the math-based stuff. But for now, that's how you do it. So we go back to our home directory, ls, we're in our public HTML directory, and I can cd into public HTML, and I can make a file called index.html. So pico index.html. Okay, so now I'm going to create a very, very basic website, and it should be accessible via our web server. So we're learning HTML. The latest standard of HTML is HTML5, and the basic structure of an HTML5 document starts out with what's called a doc type tag. Oops. There we go. So that basically defines what type of document we're creating, and that's in the HTML standard. And then we start creating HTML elements. Okay, an HTML document starts with an HTML element, and then you have to close that HTML element. So this is called the start tag, and this is called the end tag of an element. The slash here designates the end tag. Okay, so the core of a document is an HTML element, then we add a head element, and we add a body element. Now, for indentation, I like to use 4 spaces. Some people like to use 2. Everything I'm going to do is going to be 4 spaces just because that's what I'm used to. You can also use an actual tab character, but a tab character is usually 8 spaces. So that can be kind of a lot. So anyway, this is the basic structure here of an HTML document. And if I type something in here, we should be able to look at the ISU server. Okay, I don't have permission yet. Let's save that file. There it is. Okay. So I hadn't saved the file yet, so there was nothing in there. So as we look here, type ls-l, we have our one file in our public HTML directory. Okay. And we can look at the contents of that with the cat command, cat index.html. This is as simple as it gets for an HTML document. Alright. Now, one thing we can do is add a different tag. This is a title tag, and we can add that to the head. This is the header of the document. So we'll say title, and we'll say this is Luke's homepage. Okay, so we'll save that. Oops. Control O means write out. That's save. Now if we reload this, we see up here this tab change to whatever text is in the title tag. Okay, so there's a start tag, and then whatever is inside, whatever's in between the start tag and the end tag are called the child elements. This child element is just a text element. It doesn't have any tag around it. So by default, that's just created as a general text element. Same with this one. There's no tag around this other than body. So the children of this body element is a plain text element. That's hello, my name is Luke. Okay, so that's very basic. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to use Atom because it does syntax highlighting. It's kind of a better editor than Pico, and so we're going to use FileZilla to access our file. Okay, so you should have done this before. The host is cs.indstate.edu. This is your username, password, port 22, quick connect. Okay, so this is my home folder. Let's go to desktop, and then over here, public HTML. I have this index file, so I'm going to drag this over to my desktop so I can edit this file on my local machine, and I'll use Atom to do that. So you can open Atom manually, or I like to open it from the command line. So I type Atom index.html. Okay, so this is our basic document. Just open my desktop folder. So Atom over here on the left is allows you to open a project, which is basically a folder, a directory, and the project it opened is just my desktop. And so any files and folders in there I can navigate in and look at. And so this is good for like large projects. Most of our stuff is just going to be a couple files, but it's nice to be able to access them all from the same editor view. So here we go. We've got basic HTML document. Notice Atom does this nice syntax highlighting, so that's very helpful, and it does a lot more in like JavaScript and CSS too. And I've got mine set up where you can see the little dots, the white spaces, so you know if your indentation is correct, things like that. So let's get started. What you're going to be doing for your lab is making a simple homepage for yourself, and then add a couple links to a couple other pages that you've made with some images. Basically try to use what we've learned so far, some of the basic tags of HTML. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up class notes here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is learn about some new elements. Let's look at what's on the list here. So a header element is really nice. This lets you type out some text in a very large format. Okay, so this is an H1 tag. Now I can move this file back over. I'm going to overwrite, and now when I go back to Chrome, if I refresh, this is an H1 tag. Okay, so this is basically how you can use Atom on your local machine and edit stuff and send it back to the CS server. Okay, so you'll be doing this a lot. Anytime you make a change to your file, you move it over to the CS server side of FileZilla, overwrite the file, and refresh the page, and it'll show up in here. Okay, so there are 6 heading tags. The H stands for heading. We've got H2. And Atom has some nice features. If you hit Control-Shift, you can duplicate a line, and that's really nice. So I can just duplicate this line and go H3. H4. H6. Okay, I'm going to save my document, go to FileZilla, move it over. Okay, so these are your different types of headings. So normally if you're making a some content on the web, you're going to be conveying some sort of information, so a lot of times you need some sort of outline. So this would be like the title of your H1 tags are pretty big. A lot of times you don't even use H1s because they're so big, but H1 tag would be like a title, and then these would be subsections, and then these would be subsections of those, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's the H tag. Now, another thing you can do is the P tag, which is paragraph tag. And this allows you to write text, and it formats it in paragraph form. So here is some text that should be So we'll copy and paste this a whole bunch. So we have a paragraph. And then we can copy that. And we have another paragraph. Okay, with Atom, another thing that's nice you can do is if you highlight some text, if you press Tab, it indents it, or if you press Shift Tab, it pulls it back out. So you can change your indentation. Normally, your child elements should be indented whatever number of spaces that you're using for your indent. So in my case, I'm using 4. All the child elements should be indented 4. Now a child of a child would be indented 4 more. But the P tag is not actually under the H tag. Okay, Atom automatically did that and that was incorrect. So see, we've got an H tag, that's the first child. This P tag is the second child, third child, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Okay, so they all share this indentation level. Alright, so we'll save that, move it over. Okay. So you notice how in each P tag it is its own paragraph. Alright. So this is common if you're writing out some informational document or an article about something, you'd use P tags. Alright. Now we have a bold tag, which is a B tag. It stands for bold. This is not really used too much anymore, but I'm still going to show it to you because it's kind of convenient. The B tag is bold and the I tag is italics. So let's do it up here. This should be bold. So we make a B tag. This should be in bold. Okay, so the child element of this B tag is that. Now this is kind of used inline in text, so we don't have to, I mean, you could do it like this, indent, but that looks a little bit weird. So use your indentation in a way that makes sense to organize your code. That's the whole point of it. Technically, none of this has to be indented. You can make this all one single line, and it would still work. Okay, the indentation is just for you, the coder. So organize it in a way that makes sense to you and in a way that's readable. So this should be in bold, and then let's copy that and make one that should be in italics. Okay. Copy it over. Reload the page. This is in bold, and this is in italics. Okay, so that's pretty basic. Now, another common thing you're going to want to do is add an image. Okay, so let's find, the internet is all about cats. Let's find an image of a cat. There we go. Perfect. How about that one? We're going to save this image as cat1, and it's a PNG file. So I'm going to put that on my desktop and save it. So here's I have that cat file. And in my HTML I can reference that say, let's make an h3 tag. It says, here's my cat. h3, and then I'm going to add an image tag, img, and the source is basically the path, the file path to this image. Okay, so the file path to this image is going to be the same directory as my index.html file. That's what the // means. And then it's going to be cat1.png. Okay, so image tags don't have any children, and I like to self-close them. A tag that doesn't have any children, you can close it with a slash in the start tag at the very end of the tag. Okay, so this is the same as, or it's similar to doing /image. Okay, since I don't have any children and there's no way you can ever have any child elements in an image tag, instead of adding this ending tag right there, this is a shortcut. You close it right there. Alright, so let's save this, and we're going to move index over. Now I haven't moved the image over yet, so when we refresh the page it says here's my cat, but there's no image because I never moved it over to the CS server. Okay, so if I right click here and go refresh, we see cat1 show up. I move it over. Now let's do that. There it is. There's my cat. Looks kind of angry. I don't know. He's frolicking but angry. Very strange. Alright, so that's an image. You'll use those all over the place. You can resize the image with something called attributes. This src is an attribute of the image tag, the image element. Attributes supply more information to that particular element. So in this case, the image element has an attribute source, which is the path to the image file. Okay, so it's a way of providing extra image information to that particular tag, to that particular element. Another attribute you can have on image tags is height, and we can say we want this to be 50 pixels. Yeah, and then here we'll say we want the width to be 50 pixels. And if you set them both, the image can get distorted. So you'll see what I mean here. So all I have to copy over is index, because that's all I changed. I don't have to copy over the cat file again. Alright, I reload this page, and we've got more image files now. Now notice they went horizontally instead of everything we've done so far has come down in a vertical manner. Notice as I added these image tags, they went horizontally. Okay, let's do something like 150. That's a little bigger. There you go. So see, this one kind of squished a little bit. You get a better view if we do, let's just do 50 and 150. You'll see that one. Oops. So this, since we have a height and a width, it's going to distort the image quite a bit. Okay, see, you can't hardly tell what it is. If you only use one of them, it will maintain the aspect ratio of the image, which aspect ratio maintaining aspect ratio means it's going to keep the same percentage X and Y, height and width. So you're designating in the first one the height. So this height is 150 pixels, and it'll automatically set the width based on the ratio of the width to height of the original image. And on this one, you're setting the width from here to here, and it automatically sets the height based on the ratio of the original image. That's called the aspect ratio of the image. Okay, now this one we added both, and it distorted the image. So you want to be careful with that. Now, again, notice it added these horizontally. If we want to add another one vertically, you add the BR tag. It has no children, and it stands for break, and that basically causes everything to render on a new line. So if I add these three images again under the BR tag, and I put BR tags after each one, now we can see that everything should render vertically. Okay, so there's our original 4 that are still horizontal, and then these render vertically because the BR tag says, okay, start rendering on the next line. Then it sees a BR tag and it says, okay, start rendering on the next line. So that's what the break tag does, BR. Okay. There's another tag that's convenient sometimes. Sometimes it's called the HR tag. That's the horizontal rule. Copy this over. So it basically just adds a line. So it's like you do that before a new section of text. Okay, so I should probably put one here, or here's my cat. This is kind of a new topic, new section. This is an H1 tag is the first section. Here's my cat is the next one, and then so let's move this HR tag on up here. There we go. Oops. There we go. Horizontal rule. Okay. So we can also add links. Links are very convenient. You have to have links in the internet. There's links everywhere. That's how the internet works. You link one document to another document, which links to another, and you have the net. That actually is what creates the net in internet. Okay, so links are very important. So we'll start showing you how to make some of those. Let's make a new file first, though. I'm going to say this is the introduction to HTML, and I'm going to make a home page that links to this first page. Okay. So let's see. If I go back to my course public HTML file folder, we see index and cat1.png. Okay, so I'm going to make another file. I'm going to copy index to a file called CP. I'm going to say intro to HTML. .html. Okay, type ls-l. Intro to HTML. There we go. Now on index, I'm editing the index file here. So what we'll do is we'll say course notes, and then we'll make a link to that newly created page. So you make a link with an A tag, which is called an anchor tag. And then you add an attribute, href. That's where the hyperlink reference, it stands for hyperlink reference, and it's basically the path to the file that you want to link to. So this can be, in this case, this is going to be local to our web server. This is going to be a local file, but you can also link things on the internet with HTTP, so it'll link to any other website. But we want to link to something local, which is our intro to html.html. Okay. And then we close the A tag. Again, so this is the name of the element, A. This is the element attribute, href, and then this is the value of that attribute. And notice how the value of the attribute is surrounded by strings. And this is another reason that Atom is nice. It gives you a different colorization for attributes and the string values. You see it's green when it's a string. So it just helps you read your code a little bit better. Okay, so the A tag does have a child element that's just supposed to be text, and this is what the link looks like. So this is the text of the link, that is. So intro to HTML. Okay, course notes. And I'm going to add a BR tag here, so that way I can add a few more links. So we should see 3 links. They're all going to link to the same thing. So now I go to FileZilla. If I refresh this, we see that new intro to HTML file that I made. And I'm going to take my index that I just changed on my local machine, copy it over. Okay, so we've got course notes, intro to HTML. I see up here it tells you what file you're on. If I hit back, it goes back to the root directory. By default, this web server, if you don't specify an actual file name in the address bar here, it goes to index.html. So notice that's the same thing. Alright, so all these links go to the same thing. Once the link is visited, it turns purple. Yeah, that's the standard behavior. Okay, and then here's our cat page. Alright. So what we can do is we can make this list a little bit nicer. Let's make this a list of links. So to make a list, there are 2 types of lists. There is an ordered list and an unordered list. So an ordered list is it basically is a bulleted list with numbers. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can add list items to the ordered list element. Okay, so I'd want to duplicate these. And get rid of these. Okay, and then I can have an unordered list. With the same information in it. Okay, and we'll see what that looks like over here. Okay, so it's basically just bullets, 1, 2, 3, and then this is the unordered list is bullets. There are things you can do to change these numerals. You can make this A, B, C, and stuff like that. That's more advanced. We'll go into that later probably. Okay, so anyway, all these just link to our specific our cat intro to HTML notes. So I'm going to fix this and put it back to just one item, and as we create things I will add stuff here. So as we go through different lectures I will add different links here so you can access all the different stuff we've been doing. So this is just the intro. We can make a new one now. Let's pull over. Let's pull this over. Intro to HTML. We need to look at that one and change this title because that's not the home page anymore. This is Intro to HTML. Okay, and then we can add our ordered list stuff. So we're going to use the HR tag to add a horizontal rule, and we can say H3, this is how you list items. All right. Let's move that over. This is how you list items. And these links just link to, it links to itself, but you could have them link anywhere else. And one thing that is nice, you can also have the link, you can have the links be images. So if I wanted, let's get this one here. If I wanted these links to be images, okay. Now see how the cursor changes when I hover over? We still have our bullet points. When the cursor changes though, and I can click on that and it links to this. Well, I can make this link to our home page instead by changing the href. I'll change all of these to go back to our home page. Okay, so that's just going to demonstrate that this text inside here is what shows up in the link. And when these are in the li tags, we don't need the br tags anymore. All right. Let me move this over. Okay, so you see this takes us back to course notes, which is index.html, and then that takes us to intro to HTML. And see here's the different text that I specified inside the a tag, home home page and some text for the link. Okay, so that's some basic HTML to get you started. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth to talk about a style tag, which can be added to most HTML elements. Style tag allows you to change the style of that element and any children elements, or it can change the style of child elements. So let's start with something simple like color. Let's say we want where's our cat section? Here we go. Let's say we want this H3 tag. We want the color of that text to be red or tomato colored or something. So let's say we add a style attribute, and in here we say color tomato. Okay, this part in here, this is CSS. This is cascading style sheets, is the name of that technology. CSS allows you to change the styles and attributes of particular HTML elements. Right now we're changing the styles in line, so we change the style on a specific element like this. Tomato. Copy these over. Here's my cat, and it's the color of a tomato. We can set the background color of the body. Let's say we can make this gray. So our background color is gray. We can specify a specific color, not just a named color, by using this # and RGB syntax. So the first two numbers are hexadecimal numbers, or digits, which is hexadecimal is 1 through 16. So the digits are 0 through 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, and F. So if I go F, 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 that color is white. The Atom editor shows you any hexadecimal colors you specify. It shows you what colors those are. So if I change this to 3, it changes it. So the first two characters are how much red is in your color. The second two characters are how much green is in your color. And the third is how much blue. So if we want all red, we're going to make our red value all the way up, which is FF. We're going to make green 0, and we're going to make blue 0. And see, that's red. If we make everything 0 except green, that's green. If we make everything 0 except blue, that's blue. Okay. So a lot of times you want, some mix. You can go on a website and look up hex color picker, and it automatically comes up in Google. You can select what color you want here. So let's say we want something a little bit warmer than gray, but not too crazy. This is kind of a beige. We can copy this over. So this is our hexadecimal color. And if I go back over here, paste that in. Alright, so let's see what this looks like. Copy everything over. Okay, so that's it's a little bit warmer than a gray. So you can do theming of your website with this. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So that's the style attribute. You can do all sorts of styles. There's padding, there's margin. You're supposed to use style instead of using the B tag, the bold tag, and the italics tag. I just showed you because that's historical, and it's kind of convenient to add a B tag or an I tag in there, but it's technically not the correct way to do things, but it works. So there's a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of styles you can add with CSS and the style tags, and we'll go more into that on a later lecture about CSS, because there's an absolute ton that you can do with that. Alright, so this is oh yeah, I want to do a couple more things. Let's add something interactive here. We've got an input, and then we can add a button. Button. Okay. And then the input, we're going to make a text input. And let's put an HR tag over all this. And this is going to be H3 interactive elements. Okay, interactive elements make web pages exciting, right? Otherwise they're just informative. You can read stuff, look at images, but interactive elements allow you to type into text boxes and add buttons and click things, and different stuff happens, animations happen, all sorts of things. So interactive elements are a big part of the web, especially today's web, so we're going to look into some of that. So first, must be paired. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Interactive elements. See, we have an input. Hello, this is an input. And then a button. But they don't do anything, right? So that's not any fun. We want to make them do something. So this is where JavaScript comes in. Okay, so to write JavaScript in your HTML document, that's all the interactive stuff. That's all the interesting programmatic stuff. That's going to be most of the stuff we talk about in this course. We add a script tag to the very bottom of your body tag, and we create a function. And in this function, we're going to log some information to the console. Hello, JavaScript. Okay. And on this button tag, we're going to add an attribute that really makes the button tag a button. It makes it do something. So button's kind of useless unless it can do something. The on-click attribute tells it what to do. Okay, so this function we have in here, oops, I forgot to name it. So this is on button click. I keep writing on nothing in there. There we go, on button click. So here we write on button click. So this tells the button to execute this function. Okay, this is a function definition. the function keyword here tells JavaScript, hey, I'm writing a function. This is the function name. Left and right parentheses. You can add arguments in here. We'll talk about that later. And then you add curly braces. Inside of the curly braces, you add lines of code. Okay, this line of code says log this to the output. So let's try this. Okay, so I can open the terminal. It says hello JavaScript. Okay, so the terminal is very useful when you're web developing, when you're developing any kind of JavaScript on a web page. To do that, you can hit Control-Shift-I as a shortcut to do it. Pretty much every browser has the option to go to the console, to view the console. So here we go to More Tools and Developer Tools. Now I'm using Chrome. I recommend you use Chrome. It's got the nicest developer tools in my opinion, but Firefox has them and they're really good too. Microsoft Edge has them and they're pretty good. So you can use any web browser you want, and there's developer tools on there. But you click on this and you click on console, and this is anything that you type in console.log, it'll log it out there. So we can see every time I click this number goes up saying it's logging something. Okay, so I'm going to try to get the text that's inside of the input here. Okay, so the JavaScript for that is let's see, what is it? Document get element by ID my input. Okay, so to get the value that the user has typed in here, I need to have an ID on this input, and I'm going to call this my input. And it's an identifier, so I know how to find this input element, because I could have two. In fact, let's go ahead and make two. We'll add a BR tag in between all this stuff. So this is my input 1, and this is my input 2. Okay, so I can say element 1 variable. I'm going to make a variable and call it element 1. I'm going to set that equal to document.getElementById my input. Okay, so that's the HTML element. JavaScript can access all of these HTML elements, and you can do things with them. So I want to get the value 1. I want to get the text that's in the text box. So I can say element1.value. And then I can copy and paste. And I have element 2. This is going to be my input 2. I'm just going to make sure that's my input 1. So we're getting the element by the ID. My input 1 is the ID, my input 1. My input 2 here, we're getting the element by ID, that's this ID. Okay. And so element 2 will give us value 2, and we want element2.value. Okay, so now we can log hello JavaScript, and then we'll log out another console log that says input 1 value. and then we'll give it value 1, the variable, input 2 value, give it value 2. Okay, let's see what do we got here. Oh, that's supposed to be in lowercase, my bad. That's another way Adam helps you. See, I had that in uppercase, and it says, hey, you got an issue here. The browsers are really forgiving, though, mostly, and even if some basic mistakes that you make, they don't care about, but it doesn't conform to standard. When I do capital C here, that's not actually the standard. It has to be all lowercase. So Adam told me about that. That's why it's nice at using a better text editor than just the command line or Pico or something. So let's save this. We should be close to done here. Move this over. Refresh. So we had our BR tags to start rendering on the next line. So we got hello. Alright, let's do cats and dogs. And alright, click me. So input 1 value is cats, and then the input 2 value is dogs. Okay, so that's just the surface. Every time I press this click me button, it does this in the console. Most people don't know about the console, so it wouldn't really look like this does anything. But what you can do later is you can take this information and you can create HTML elements on this page. I could have it create items underneath here, or you can send that off to a server and have it collect user information, collect payment information if you're selling something. You can do all sorts of stuff with it. So that's the very beginning of an interactive website. I know this is a little bit much, but we're going to be going over this multiple times, so I just wanted to touch on it to begin with, and we'll go much more in depth on this. So don't worry if you're having a little trouble following exactly what's going on. We're going to do this multiple times. But also, if you have any questions about any of this, you can ask your classmates or me in the Slack room, or you can email me. Let's see if there's anything else on the agenda that I had. I did want to show you a div tag. Div tag and a span tag are kind of the bread and butter of the internet. They're the tags you're going to use most. A div basically stands for a division, and it allows you to separate your code into divisions, and you can style those divisions however you want. So let's put all of this around a div tag. So these will be children of the div tag, and I can say style, background, color, light gray. I guess I'll just do, oops, you don't do the hash for the color name. Let's just do, it should be a light gray. Yeah. Okay, so this div basically is a way to group all of these elements together, and it stands for division. So this is a division of our HTML, a section, if you will. Okay, and I'm going to make the background color of this section gray. So I'll move over here, drag these over. So notice the background color for this changed to gray. Alright, you use that a lot. And I can set let's make this okay. I'm going to make a div with nothing inside of it, and I'm going to make it slightly darker gray, but I'm also going to set the width and height of it. Oops. So you have to have a semicolon after each style rule. this is a rule. It's a background color rule. So it's the name of the rule, and then the value of the rule, and then a semicolon. Okay. Here the name of the rule is width. The value of the rule is, let's say we want 50 pixels, and I'm going to make the height 50 pixels as well. So after each rule, we have a semicolon. Now what I can do here is I can make multiple so that's a darker gray, and then this is darker gray, okay. I'm going to put all of these in their own div. Well, actually, yeah, let's just start with this. I'll show you what this looks like. Okay, so this is 50 pixels across in width and 50 pixels high, the height. And we have each div is a slightly darker gray. Okay, notice divs, I didn't use any BR tags. The main thing with the div is that they don't flow, they don't display horizontally like most HTML tags. Some other tags that don't flow horizontally, the H tag does not. The image tags do. If you use list tags, they don't flow horizontally. The input tags all flow horizontally, so you have to use break tags in between them, or wrap them in divs. Same with buttons. Okay, so you'll come to notice that some tags flow horizontally and some don't, and we'll get into more of that in the styling when we talk about CSS, which is cascading style sheets. So that's the div tag, and I want to show you its counterpart, the span tag, which is like the div tag except it flows horizontally. And you can add style to all of these to change whether or not they flow vertically or horizontally, but that gets complicated. So if you don't want to mess with the style, just use div and span. So Atom's got a feature that allows you to find and replace. If I hit Control-Shift-F, I can search for span. I guess Control-F is what we want. And then or actually I want to search for div. Let's put this back to div. So Control-F. Notice it highlights all of the things that match what you're searching for. I want to replace that with span on these elements. So I go find, it highlights this one here, I replace it. Okay. And oops, now we go to move this all back. Oops, did I not save it? Let's just do color, text color. I'll remove all this. I'm going to replace it with nothing. So we start, go find, replace, 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 replace. And we'll go A, B, C, D, E. Actually, just do color. Color A. Just color. Okay, so what I've done is I've made a span tag that has a child that's just plain text. Each one of these span tags has the word color as a child element, and I'm changing the color of that text with the style attribute. I'm setting that equal to this style, color, and then the actual color. So save that, copy it over. There, you see down here, span tags. So span tags are generally used to wrap text, stuff like that. It's not generally used to, like the div tag, to section off big aerial components of your website. It's mainly used to separate textual components. So like when you're writing text, kind of like the B tag. So if you're writing a paragraph, a lot of times you'll do something like this. Let's see. Paragraph. This is an alternative to the B tag. So I'm going to make a span tag here instead of a B tag. And I'm going to say style, font, weight is bold. Okay, so that span tag is just wrapping some text, and then I'm changing the style of that text with font weight bold. So it's basically an alternative to the B tag. Yeah, let me move it over. Okay, see, alternative is bold now. Okay, so that's some of the basics of HTML. There's a whole lot more to it, but this is enough to get you started, and you're going to be making your own home pages and websites, so you can really start working with the tech. And it's kind of fun to make your own personalized website. And you can use this also, I would recommend it even, to take notes on this lecture. You can reference your own materials. So for every tag, you could make a separate page of all the different uses for that tag if you wanted to. There's a number of different things you could do, but I recommend trying this stuff out, because it's kind of complicated, but the more you use it, the easier it gets. So do this over and over and over, because you're going to need to learn all this. It's not something you do just once. You're going to constantly be using this stuff. It's a language, so you need to learn how to speak the language by doing it, basically. So anyway, that looks like all I have for this lecture. If you have any questions, go to Slack or email me. I hope you guys are having a great week. See ya.